So I once saw a bumper sticker and it just said opinions, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. And I think about it all the time, sort of this reminder of how we broadcast our opinions out into the world constantly. And when I thought about this fourth precept, really practicing speech that is harmless, this dimension came to mind of how much of our speech is often made up of our opinions and our views. Just kind of like a bumper sticker, right? A bumper sticker is not an actual conversation, it's not real engagement. And in this world that we're in now, it really feels like a lot of our communication does boil down to sort of being talking heads, bumper stickers just at each other, trying to convince each other, having the agenda of winning an argument or proving ourselves right and someone else wrong. When you see a bumper sticker out in the world, right? If you see one that you agree with, often there's this feeling of like, you're like me. We assume that we know something about that person. We can feel a sense of kinship and solidarity. And when you see one that you disagree with, you're not like me. You're this, you're that. I know for me, there can be like an immediate judgment, immediate anger, actually. Lori last week talked about labels in her talk, invited us to consider who would we be without labels? Could we break free from putting labels on ourselves and others? So labels, bumper stickers, opinions, there are all of these ways that we kind of proclaim who we are, impose our views and our sense of self onto others. And this can happen certainly with larger world issues, right? These people are right, these people are wrong, and I'm on the right side. It can be about a stranger. Someone cuts us off and we have an opinion about who they are, or a loved one, right? Someone in our lives doesn't do something and we assume they don't care about us, or we think, this person, they really should be doing something different, or here's why you did that. I know why you did that. So I don't want to knock the importance of ideas and beliefs and opinions, right? And certainly when there's so much injustice in the world, we need to speak out. We need to have ways of expressing our beliefs. And yet in this practice, we want to really start to notice how often it's that we really want to be right, or we want to convince someone, or look smart, or seem good. We may want to win. We may want to blame or feel a sense of righteousness within ourselves. But, what does it feel like when you've been on the receiving end of someone who maybe is just expressing their opinion at you? I know I can feel the energy of that agenda, the disconnect in that. I can feel how, whether that person intends or realizes it or not, they're really not interested in understanding me or connecting with me. And it doesn't feel good. And when it's me communicating in a way that's sort of foisting my opinions onto others, I can feel the tightness of that agenda. I can feel the impatience, the non-listening, the closed heart, and often the heat in my body. And when this happens, in a lot of ways, we wind up kind of using each other as a sounding board for our own kind of thoughts to be projected upon. The other person ceases to exist as a full human, as someone who's really complex, who could teach us, who we could connect with and grow with. Eknath Esoarn points to what he calls the fierce attachment to our little personal self, our opinions, our ego that insists on having its way, whatever the consequences to others. And he says, most of us would be chagrined to see the underlying message. You aren't worth my respect. My ideas are superior. You don't count. There's a common question in couples therapy that's often asked. Do you want to be right or do you want to be married? Right? If we want to be right, if we're really attached to that and to our opinion, and we speak from that place, it may be likely to deepen discord and disconnection and polarity. And our practice is so much about intention, right? What is the intention of our speech and our communication? And the Buddha and other traditions do give us a lot of guidance on this. The Buddha offered 5 criteria. Is this being spoken at the right time? Spoken in truth? Is it spoken affectionately? Is it spoken beneficially? And is it spoken with a mind of goodwill? And I then found an Arab proverb that I actually think boils this down a little bit. I kept trying to find the source and it just kept being listed as an Arab proverb. So I'm sorry that I don't have more information than that. But in it, there are 3 gatekeepers to the mouth. So 3 questions that are asked before anything comes out of our mouth. Is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? I really like this. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? So with is it true, I think this can be one of the best questions, particularly when it comes to our attachment to opinions and views, because we're often so convinced of our perspective and our analytical take on things. And we live in that space so often. So just that simple question, is this true? Can create a little bit of pause and a little bit of unbinding and space around our attachment to what we think. Is it kind? Is the belief or opinion itself kind? And is the expression of it in this moment kind to this other person? Does it foster connection and understanding? And is this necessary? I love this as the last gate. Is this necessary right now, in this moment, to share my view or my stance with this person in this situation? Does it actually add anything? So, we can see what it would be like to hold these questions, what we would want our intention to be before we speak. And I've been noticing more and more that I want my speech to be supported by these questions. I really want the intention of kindness, connection, understanding. And otherwise, I kind of want to be quiet. And I don't know about you all, but I've been surprised in this practice and at times have struggled with how little I want to engage in a war of words and that kind of back and forth of bumper stickers, because I can feel how it keeps me up here and it keeps me closed. And so I'm trying to invite myself into really seeing, am I connecting with the person who's in front of me? And in what way am I connecting with them? And of course, we're really attached to our opinions, right? We want to have compassion for ourselves with how hard this is. I know I want to be right. Our opinions bring us a sense of solid ground. And questioning or pulling back from that or not asserting that can be a letting go and can be vulnerable. So even kind of thinking for a moment of who would you be without your views? What if we acknowledge that we don't know something? What if I soften my attachment to my beliefs? Will I be steamrolled, shamed, hurt, silenced? Will my whole sense of self come crashing down? And and then also kind of what happens to you when someone does not share your opinions or your stance? There's one story I really liked where a samurai visited a Zen master, and he's really proud. He's figured something out, and he says, "The whole world is empty. It's all emptiness." And the Zen master says, "What do you know? You're a dirty old samurai." And he throws something at him, and the samurai unsheaths his sword and puts it to the Zen master's throat. And the Zen master says, "Ah, emptiness is quick to show its temper, isn't it?" Like selfing. It's so much at the root of our opinions. And I was thinking about experience and interaction I had almost 2 decades ago. I had watched a documentary on how much the oceans were being harmed by human action. And I was really moved. I was really upset. I was talking to someone who I was dating at the time, and she did not seem as distraught as I was. And I confronted her on this. I was like, don't you care? What's wrong with you? Don't you know this is happening? This is happening. This is happening. Opinions just at her. And feelings, a lot of feelings. And she said, I do care, actually. And it is terrible. And I agree with you that something needs to be done. But the oceans, it's just not the thing that cracks my heart open the way it cracks yours open. And she acknowledged being glad that it cracks my heart open this way. But she said for her, what cracks her heart open are things more related to children having access to education and resources. And so I've really never forgotten that, right? She didn't say, you're wrong. What I care about is more important. She didn't say, well, do you know all the things that are happening to kids? This and this and this and this. She didn't argue in a heady way. She didn't defend her position or squash mine. She really met my pain and shared her own. And so even just kind of thinking of these 3 questions, right? What she said, what she did, was it true? Yeah. I mean, it wasn't statistics and opinions and arguments. It was her heartfelt resonance with me and an acknowledgement of what moves her. Was it kind? Yes. It was kind to herself, which I really appreciate. It was very kind to me. It was kind to the oceans. It was kind to the children that she cares about, right? To all. Was it necessary in that moment? I would say yes. I was judging her. I was putting our connection in a precarious place. And what she shared, what she said, helped bridge that, helped me slow down and see her and see myself a little more clearly and truly. And so in working with this, and I think we have to orient to humility and not knowing, and that there may be a lot that feels like a drop, right? A dropping away of our speech. We may just say less, a dropping away of how we have connected to other people typically, and they may notice, and that can be challenging. There can be a dropping away of who we think we are, who we think others are, what we rely on as the truth. And all of that, I think, can be really fertile, rich ground for practice. Claude Inchin Thomas, he's a Vietnam veteran, American Vietnam veteran, and a Zen monk. Just wanted to share that he takes this a little bit even farther. He struggled for decades with PTSD symptoms. And his practice actually, when people would disagree with him, anger him, disrespect him, he would bow to them internally as a way to say thank you. Because His reactivity, their actions showed him the edges of his own reactivity and his attachment to himself and to his beliefs. And I just really appreciate that kind of U-turn that he makes. Jack Kornfield says, living a spiritual life, we're challenged to discover another way of seeing. Rather than seeing with our usual images, ideas, we learn to see with the heart, which loves, rather than with the mind, which compares and defines. So let's practice with this, right? Kind speech, restraint in speech, aware of our attachment to views and opinions, the energy of how those opinions want to be expressed. Can we watch out for when we're wanting to be that bumper sticker? Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, right? Of opinions. Can we use these three gatekeepers? Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And if the answer is no, practicing restraint, letting go, staying silent and kind of being with that. So thank you so much for your attention. And let's just really gently and kindly transition to practice, to setting up the practice, however that is for you. Always inviting movement and stretches, especially after we take in words and information, right? Just kind of letting things move a little bit. Letting the breath take up some space and move through. You may want to reach the arms up or out to the sides, or maybe clasp them and really gently lift the chest. Really take your time listening, tending to your body, however it is in this moment today. If it's sleepy, if it's restless, if it's energized. And gradually just let yourself come into a comfortable posture, perhaps sitting, standing, laying down. A posture where the breath can really move freely and easily. Maybe notice the spine long, that sense of being rooted to the ground, and also connected, reaching a little bit upward to the sky. The side body, the ribs expanding and contracting. How we share that with so many beings. And in your own time, you might allow the attention to rest with your anchor, perhaps the breath, perhaps sounds. And allowing that focus to be soft. It doesn't have to be efforting or tight, but can be open, receptive. And you can stay with the anchor for the whole practice, gently coming back, staying with. And on offer also is perhaps noticing when you do get lost in thoughts, thinking, Just noticing how much of that maybe is the mind sort of generating opinions and views and stances, or rehearsing, expressing those. And seeing if you can notice that with some gentleness and humor, even softening around that. in moments, perhaps noticing the busyness of the mind. No problem, no judgment. Then noticing can invite a little more softening back, settling back into our holding environment, the breath. Thank you all. Thanks for your practice, your presence. Such a gift.